Well, tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi mahana kia koutou, and welcome to this extraordinary council meeting this Thursday, the 2nd of April 2026. It feels like just last week we were here, team. In fact, we were. Thus is the amount of work that is coming through right now, and today we have some particularly important agenda items. But before we get underway, I would like to please invite Councillor O'Keefe to lead us in opening karakia and waiata. And Councillor O'Keefe, if you can please turn on your microphone as well, that way the community will know what's happening.
Yep. E tū koutou. Toru wha te aroa e whakapono e te rangi mari e tātou tātou e anō te E honore he kroria, e tātou ki te atua I runga rawa, e maunga rongo ki te whenua. Arahi mātou ki te mātauranga uhia mai ki runga I a tātou katoa, I roto e te ingoa a ihu krahi. Lord, pray tell we bow to your wisdom. Pray tell you would embrace every household represented here today and let the love flow. We ask this in the name of our Lord and Saviour, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Ngā mihi, Councillor O'Keefe, thank you for that. Now, just a reminder for those of you who are in the chamber today that we are live streaming today's meeting, and for those of you who may be tuning in online, you will see devices in front of the elected members. These are used to access their important council papers. And also just elected members to remind you that if you put your microphone on to speak, please make sure you move your device away from the microphone so that you can be heard. I'll now move on to apologies and requests for leave of absence. So there are no apologies or requests that have been made so far. Are there any from the floor? Councillor O'Keefe.
These are for lateness, Your Worship, if I may be permitted. I've got 5 dates here. April, the 9th of April, the 13th of May, the 4th of June, the 2nd of July, and the 30th of July for lateness. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Keith, and I may ask you to connect with Democratic Support after the meeting just to give them an indication of roughly how late you think you'll be, so we can accommodate accordingly. Councillor Nixon.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Leave of absence, school holidays, which I understand are 13th to 17th inclusive.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, we have those requests for leave of absence. Do I have a mover from the floor? Thank you, Councillor Ross. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Watkins. I'll put that we receive and approve those leave of absence. All those in favour? Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Moving on now to conflicts of interest. If everyone can just be aware as we move through the agenda, if there are any conflicts of interest, please just declare them at the time. Item 4, which is confirmation of minutes. Given we only met last week, the team have not had a chance to pull those minutes together, so there are none to confirm at this time. Now today, being an extraordinary meeting, team, you're going to see a different agenda than what we normally see, which means there's small modifications as we go through because this has been pulled together with somewhat haste. I am also going to reorder the agenda a little bit to accommodate officers, but I'll make sure you know which agenda item we're on as we move through. So first of all, we will come to item 5 though, which is the Hawke's Bay Water Services CCO foundational documents. And I'll hand over now to our Chief Executive to get the ball rolling.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, through you. Good afternoon, councillors. So today's a fairly significant day in terms of the consideration of the foundational documents to give effect to the proposed Hawke's Bay Water Services entity. It's worthwhile just setting it in a little bit of context, because it has been a journey, and it's a journey that goes back almost 10 years to the Havelock North water contamination in August 2016, which sparked government inquiry, the case for reform that was initially known as Three Waters, that went through an evolution to become Local Waters Done Well. Last year, every council in New Zealand was required to furnish a water service delivery plan to government, having consulted their community on a minimum of 2 options. In our context, we went out to the community and consulted on 3 options. An option around creating a Hawke's Bay water entity, CCO, to establish a Hastings CCO, or continue to operate water services in-house. In that we were clear in the consultation document about many things, including the engagement and involvement of mana whenua, both at a governance and operational level. And the feedback from the community was very strong in support of the establishment of a Hawke's Bay CCO, with 83% of the over 1,000 submissions, which was one of the highest rates of submission in New Zealand, and furnished a water services delivery plan with the delivery model being the Hawke's Bay water entity to government, as we were required to do by law last September, which has subsequently been approved by government. And the work since then, working collaboratively with our colleagues, has been to prepare the foundation for a Hawke's Bay water entity. And so those are the documents that are in front of council today, starting with the foundational documents. But with that, Your Worship, happy to the team to add anything further, or to take questions from council.
All right, I'll hand over to the team in front of me.
No, Your Worship, I think we just go straight to questions.
Excellent. Okay, councillors, we're taking the report as read, which is item 5, with that context from our Chief Executive. Do we have, first of all, any questions? I'm coming first to Councillor Montepero-Henry.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. I just wanted to make sure, please, that recommendation C that we would be agreeing to is that as it is now, not agreeing to or adapting or including any potential changes that may come.
Through you, Your Worship, we would be expecting that as of now, subject to any minor editorial adjustments, and that is one change we would like to make to recommendation D, that the C is delegated the ability to make any minor editorial amendments to the 2 foundational documents.
Thank you. And another, if I may. Just in lieu of the Radio New Zealand article just in March, how comfortable are we that we won't be in the same situation with the CCO as Wellington?
A topic that is top of mind for many councils at the moment. I will see, first of all, whether or not the officers are in a position to answer that.
So you, Chair, we will make an attempt, and then if there's other information you need, we can always bring that back. I think what we can say, prior to finalising the WSDP and in preparation for that, we have done an awful lot of modelling. And I think we've introduced to Council a lot of new financial acronyms as we went through that journey to give us a much better understanding. We have used our LTP to get to this point. So a lot of understanding there. I think it's also fair to say, if you look at what's happened with Wellington, then our council has invested over 300 million by the end of this financial year in our water services. We've also spent a lot of money doing annual preventative maintenance and the corrective maintenance as it's come up. But this is also, it is a big asset. There are challenges with this, so I don't think we could ever give any guarantee, but we are as comfortable as we can be with the modelling that's been done, with the analysis that's been done, with the preparation of the work that's been done to get to this budget, to get it set up, that we've got a robust financial framework that we have used in the preparation.
I'll come now to Deputy Mayor Fowler, who is also one of our transitional governance group members.
Thank you, Worship, and through you, note lawyers have looked at the agreement. Has there been any other verification or quality control is the right word, but review of the documents externally?
Through you, Your Worship, I believe that's also been through DIA. I've had a look at the shareholders agreement and constitution, and it's in line with the sector.
Thank you for that, and it is reassuring to understand that DIA have looked at it as well. Are there any other questions, councillors? No, in which case, on this particular item, I'm very happy to move from the chair. This has been a huge journey to get to this point, and I acknowledge our Chair of Infrastructure Delivery, Councillor Watkins, who is offered to second. This is an important step forward in actually seeing this entity stood up. It is an exciting time on a very, very long journey, but also part of a long journey that continues. So based on the fact we have a mover and a seconder, do we have any debate or comments? No? The documents must be fairly self-explanatory then. So on that basis, I will put the recommendations as outlined on page 8. All those in favour? Any against? Thank you, that's carried unanimously.
Excuse me, Your Worship.
Oh.
There was an amendment, so it wasn't as on page 8.
I apologise. Thank you, Councillor Corbyn. Can we make sure that we have that on screen? Because you're right, it was said verbally, but it wasn't put on screen. So we will walk that back somewhat, and I will check with the seconder that he is happy with the recommendations as they are on screen. Thank you, Councillor Corbyn. If we could please zoom in on those team. So that is the change to what's in your paper on page 8. Thank you for highlighting that. Thank you, Councillor Watkins, for confirming that you're happy. I will open it up again for any comments or debate if anyone's concerned with that change. No, in which case we'll count the first one as practice and this will be the final. All those in favour? Aye. Any against?
Yeah, I am.
Councillor, I'm sorry, but if you want to debate against something, you have to say it before the vote. I did leave room for that to be put forward. Okay, so no comments after you've voted. Thank you. We note your vote against. And Councillor Gibson, councillors, I am going to say it is very important for our community that if you are not in favour of recommendations, that you speak to them and explain not just to the community but your colleagues why you are not for it. And you have to do that before the vote is put. So I did pause then and ask for comments and debate, and no one raised their hands. So in the future, I won't accept that because our community deserves to understand why votes are cast a certain way. Right, so we'll move on with 2 against and the rest 4. So in this bit...
Sorry, Your Worship, I was actually abstaining.
But again, the reasoning remains, Councillor Gibson. You have not indicated why you're abstaining. And I will say to you actually what former Mayor Sandra said to me and what former Mayor Lawrence said to her, which is our community charges us with making up our minds, not sitting on the fence. So abstentions should be reused in a very rare case. I was told that as early on as a councillor, and I'm passing on that feedback. Right, so we will now move forward. So in this case, we're now moving on to item 8 for continuity. So this is on page 29. We will come back to the other items. So I'll hand back over to the team. This is the establishment budget.
Thank you, through Your Worship. I'll take the paper largely as read. The establishment budget represents a lot of work to date in terms of looking back at the modelling in the water service delivery plan, looking at known contracted and committed costs during this transition period, benchmarking against other water organisations, and reviewing those key assumptions modelled earlier. Happy to take any questions on this.
Thank you, team. I see we have a number of questions already, so I'll come first to Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Thank you, Your Worship. So in terms of the scale of what's ahead of us, the assets transferred and the complexity is around about $1 billion.
Through your worship, I believe it's closer to 2 billion for the
Closer to 2 billion?
organisation.
Yep. The accounting doctrine of conservatism applied there. Follow-up question, when we consulted, the budget now, which stands about, is it correct, about 17 million? Yep. How close is that, not within the dollar, but is it within ballpark of what we originally consulted as part of the LTP?
Yes, through your worship, we consulted with the community on a total of 17.5 million in transition and operational costs in the first 2 financial years of that modelling. The current budget before you is 14.2 million with a contingency of 3.5, I believe, which keeps it within that $17.5 million envelope. So we are, the budget is in line with what we consulted the community on last year.
Yep, thank you, Worship. Just in summary, assets of 2 billion, a budget consulted on, or 17 million, 14 million with a contingency of 3 million. Yep, thank you.
Thank you for drawing out that clarity, Deputy Mayor. I'll come now to Councillor Milmine.
Thank you, through you, Worship. First, I'd just like to start by thanking the team. I know that this has been a huge amount of work for Jess and alongside BAU. So while there's more than just Jess, there's not many, and I know that it's a huge amount of work, so thank you. At my question, so as the Administrator of Council, how are we ensuring that we recoup our costs from the regional?
A superb question.
Through your worship, the intention is for the water organisation to borrow directly from the LGFA as soon as possible. That process can only start after incorporation. And once the water organisation borrows from the LGFA, they will be repaying Hastings District Council for the debt plus interest incurred on that debt.
Fantastic, thank you. Sorry, one supplementary, Your Worship. All going well, obviously, what you've just said. So what's the contingency if, for some reason, LGFA weren't to lend to the entity?
Through your worship, there are other options open to the water organisation. I know some transition groups at the moment around the country are also getting lending facilities from banks. So that's another potential option. But the LGFA have certainly made no indications at this stage that there would be any issues in that process.
Fantastic, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Milmine. I'll come now to Councillor Nixon.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. The question really is, should I explain why I might vote against this?
We are taking questions right now, Councillor. We will open up to debate.
Should I?
I've answered you. You can take a seat now.
I'm not debating it. I'm just asking, should I comment on it?
I've just said
yeah, okay.
we will open up to comments and debate after questions, Councillor.
Yeah.
I'll come now to Councillor Gibson.
Yes, I'm just querying about the 14.2 million. Had it been business as usual kept in-house, would that 14.2 million had it been required? Or is that over and above business as usual?
Through your worship, a lot of the 14.2 million in there relates to transitioning to a completely new water organisation. I can't speak to exactly how much would have been required if we had kept it as an in-house business unit to get to 1 July 27, but it would have been a different.
Just through you, Your Worship, just to add to that, I guess the counterfactual was if it was staying in-house, we wouldn't be incurring costs around establishing a new entity. But what clearly the modelling did when we looked at the options around in-house establishing Hastings CCO versus a Hawke's Bay water entity, clearly the best financial return over the long run was a Hawke's Bay water entity.
And adding to that, that is what our community told us they wanted us to do too. So actually it's timely just to refocus again, team. We are not here to debate whether or not we move into a regional water entity. We're simply looking at the process and whether or not we're comfortable with that at the moment. We've adopted the foundational documents. We're now looking at the budget. Councillor Nixon, do you have a question?
No, it's not a question.
Okay. Councillor O'Keefe. Can you turn off your microphone for now, please, Councillor Nixon? Thank you.
That's a lot of money, isn't it? It's a lot of money. I know you've gone out to the community, you got the thumbs up, but I'm thinking more along the lines of the decile that I associate with on a daily basis, on a regular basis. And let's assume they haven't read the document, they haven't heard about it, they wouldn't know a thing about it until it hits the public arena. What can I say to them? What can I say to them? If they say, bro, a lot of money, 14 million, 7 million, the transition team program, management expert advice, office rental, what can I say to them? Chief, yeah.
Through you, Worship. I think the message is when we're looking at the cost to the people that use water, ratepayer, the prudent thing over the long run, the thing that is going to most make water affordable is moving to the Hawke's Bay Water Entity over the other options.
I'm not saying no, by the way.
No, but in answering your question,
I just want to score some brownie points when they get out there.
Yep.
So this is the best investment we can make now for over the long run, delivering the most cost-effective way of delivering water into the future.
Because I will get asked.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Keefe. I'm sure we all will. Are there any other questions? No, in which case I am looking for a mover of the recommendations, please. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Fowler. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Radcliffe. Okay, we now have recommendations on the table. I'll open it up for comment and debate. Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Your Worship. I still have a concern about the eventual cost to water users who are almost all ratepayers. That is my concern. I still feel we should have kept this operation in-house because I think we actually do a pretty good job at managing our Three Waters infrastructure. And so that is the reason why it's really a protest vote more than anything.
Thank you, Councillor Nixon. I'll come now to Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just reinforcing what Councillor Nixon has just said, which is also I won't be supporting it purely because of the we had 3 councils, now we're going to essentially have 4. And we're increasing, not decreasing efficiency.
I will just correct you on one item there. We will not have 4 councils outside of 3. Councillor, we will have a water entity. Right, are there any other questions, comments or debate, sorry? No, in which case we have a substantive motion on the table. The recommendations are outlined on page 30. They are not modified this time. So I'll put those, all those in favour? Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's 2 against. That is carried. Okay, team, we will now move to item 7, which is on, I believe, page 23. Yes. And so this is the statement of expectation process. I'll hand over to the team.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll take the paper largely as read. The statement of expectations process is the process in which Council can outline their strategic intentions to the Water Service Organisation through the Shareholder Representative Forum. The recommendation is that the process in the attachment outlined is approved and published on Council's website as required under legislation. Happy to take any questions on that.
Thank you, team. I will open it up for questions. No questions, in which case, oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Happy to move.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Lorcan. All right, we have a substantive motion on the table. I'll open it up for comment and debate. Thank you, Councillor Watkins.
Your Worship, could I just have clarification in the recommendations? A, the date, please. Could I just understand that?
Are we looking... Oh, I see.
Through you, Your Worship. I did notice that in preparing the paper, however, the system wouldn't allow me to change it for some reason, so I apologise for...
Can we please look at maybe modifying in the recommendations for clarity? Could we do that and bring it up on screen, please? Can you just put on your microphone, please, Mr. Cameron?
Yes, sorry, Madam Chair, there's also a suggested tweak to the recommendation B, just as specified in Appendix 1 for clarification. We'll bring that up on the screen as well.
I will come to the mover and the seconder to see if you're happy with those modifications. If you'd like, we can wait till they're on screen. We'll just give our Democratic support team a moment. And can we just highlight the word April, just so it's very clear what we've changed? Thank you.
Yeah.
Happy with.
Thank you, mover and seconder. You are happy with those modifications? In which case, I will reopen it up for debate and comment. I'll come now to Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just I'll be abstaining because of what will become obvious in item 6. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Jessup.
Can we still have Poinga Whawha after April, please?
That's for the mover and the seconder.
I think it's our normal custom to have it like this, so
Okay,
I'm
the
happy
mover
with-
and seconder
as-
would like to keep it as is, so we'll maintain the recommendations as they are. In which case, if there's no further comments or debate, I will put the recommendations. All those in favour? Any against? Councillor Nixon's against. Again, Councillor. I remind you, your community wants to hear from you. So please make sure you speak before the vote, and you may well take the table with you. We are not here to operate in silos, team. We are here to operate as democracy. I will now come to the abstention. Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Right, we will now move on to item 6, which is on page 16. Oh, sorry. Oh, page 15, apologies. Right, I will come now to the team. This is the Shareholder Representative Forum.
Through you, Your Worship, take the paper largely as read. This paper follows through the process that Council had worked through the submission process, considering the hearings, the adopted heads of agreement, which stated that the Council would look to put 3 members onto a SRF, 2 of those being elected officials, and 1 would look to represent its arrangements in relationship with mana whenua. We can confirm we have touch base with Mr. Mike Paku, and he is willing and able to take up that role should your decision be to follow through with the recommendations. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. All right, I'll come now to questions. Councillor Teo Skipworth.
Not a question, Your Worship, but when you're ready to take a mover, I'm happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Teo Skipworth. Councillor Gibson.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just I'll be making an amendment when you're ready.
Okay, we're holding recommendations and amendments right now, team. I'll make that very clear. So questions, please. Councillor Teo Skipworth. Is that a question?
Oh.
Sorry. Okay. Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Yep, thank you, Worship. Through Your Worship, what does the foundation documents or shareholders agreement say about the makeup of the shareholders representative forum in terms of who was supposed to be actually on there?
If I talk to, in terms of the heads of agreement, which shaped the shareholders agreement, sorry, it's up to 3 members or appointees from each council, which will include at least 1 elected member, with each council deciding separately how to reflect their mana whenua relationships within their memberships. And just to build on that, if I may, Your Worship, through the conversations and all the hui and meetings with both at the community drop-in centre and then meetings across the various PSGs, this council talked directly around the expectation of providing 1 of those 3 members to be there to represent their views.
Okay, thank you. I'll come now to Councillor O'Keefe.
Sorry. Thank you, Worship. With Mike Paku, that's an interim one, eh? That's not for
Correct.
I remember reading it, but I've lost it. It's interim, mate.
That's correct, and it does outline that in recommendation B, councillor. Thank you for highlighting it though. All three of the appointments in F are interim at the moment, team. This is just to get us through this bizarre phase that we're moving into and ensure continuity, and that those who represent us have an active understanding in this space. We then have, as outlined in 4.8, process for looking at establishing the more permanent placements. I'll come now to questions from Councillor Nixon.
Yeah. Does having an external, that is a non-councillor appointee, have any implications for liability?
Through your worship, as this is the shareholding council, it's not the directors on the company. If this was for the directors, which this group appoints, those directors have direct, many and a long list of liabilities. These representatives are this council's representatives onto that shareholders forum. As has been previously discussed at workshops, that shareholders forum has a very limited scope, one of which is the performance of the directors and one of which is working on the collective input of the three councils, the three shareholders, into that statement of expectations. This council can change. The Constitution Shareholders Agreement allows this council to change, and same with the other shareholders, their members at any time. There's not set commitments or periods of service for the like.
Thank you.
Councillor Nixon, you're satisfied? Thank you. Councillor Noel Lustig.
Thank you, Chair. Do we know how Napier City Council and CHB are choosing their representatives?
Through your worship, I am aware that CHB have proposed a similar permanent appointments process. Napier, I haven't seen their council papers for next week yet, but I believe it's certainly similar in terms of standing up interim SRF members and then for them to determine those permanent appointments.
Thank you.
And I can certainly speak to conversations had with CHB and seeing their job ads, in fact, for the shareholder representative forum, that they too are looking for the mix of expertise that we are as well. Are there any other questions? Councillor Nixon.
Sorry, I did have a second one, I forgot to ask it. I noticed, I can't find it quickly, that there is a comment regarding regular attendance at meetings. Mm-hmm. What will be in place to ensure that the appointees do in fact attend as expected?
Councillor, I think it's probably best that I speak to that, which is, as one of the proposed appointments, I would certainly be finding it completely unsatisfactory if anyone missed those meetings, and I would be reporting back to this council, and this council has the full power at any time to remove those representatives. So it would be utterly unacceptable. I will come now to Councillor Corbyn.
I'm happy to move the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Corbyn. What I will do is I will come to Councillor Teo Skipworth in a minute, who signalled that, but you may well like to second Councillor Corbyn. So I will come now. Questions here, Councillor O'Keefe. Please, Mr. Thu.
Just through your worship, just to point a small drafting error under F, where it talks about appoints the following elected members. That could be changed to either the following members or appoints the following council or council committee members as council representatives onto the SRF. As the paper talks to Mr. Paku as a member of the Heretaunga Takata Noa Standing Committee, so forms part of the wider governance structures. Okay, and through you also, Chair, under 4.5.1, the paragraph notes to him being the former chair, he's the current chair.
Okay, and as I warned at the start of the session, team, when we have an extraordinary council meeting, sometimes we do have these little drafting errors, and I know the team worked very hard to avoid them, but thank you for highlighting those. Okay, so I think we've concluded the questions, unless anyone else wants to pop up. Councillor Ross.
Through your chair, I just wanted to understand the decisions in progress to communicate publicly, and while expecting some confidentiality in that process, how will that come through to the public?
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Thank you, Mr. Thu.
Through you, Chair, if I just may ask clarification. So you're talking the permanent process? Yeah. So council has a number of appointment processes where it will work through coming together with an appointments panel, work through an interview process, council make deliberation, and then share the results of, generally share the end result rather than sharing all the ins and outs and the discussion around. So after the decision made that, and it's declared who has been successfully selected. So it'll be no different to our other.
Does that satisfy your question, Councillor Ross? Thank you. All right, team, I see no other lights for questions, so I will now come back to Councillor Teo Skipworth. You indicated you had something you wanted to move?
Yes, I'm happy to move the paper. Thank you.
Are you happy to adopt the change that the officers have recommended to F?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, and I'll come back to Councillor Corbyn.
Yes and yes.
Okay. All right, team, we have a mover and a seconder. The recommendations as outlined on screen with that modification. So I will now open up to comments and debate. Also, if there are any further questions that come to mind, those are allowed as well. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to make an amendment, a motion.
You'd like to propose an amendment?
Yes.
Yeah, go for it.
Can we have it up the screen, or would that be easier?
Have you forwarded this on to Democratic support? Okay.
Would you like me to speak to it now?
If you just give us a moment to digest, and then we'll go from there. Mr. Cameron?
The structuring is provided by the member for this amendment would require some alterations to the text in the document, because the existing recommendations refer to a section, giving effect to a section in the document. So hence the alterations to the text. I think it's 4.10 in the document as part of this amendment.
Okay, so what we'll do, team, is Councillor Gibson, we're just going to take a short adjournment for everyone to have a moment to read your proposed amendment, and then we'll come back to you to speak to it. So, team, that's a small adjournment for 5 minutes. Okay, team, if you can please all take your seats. Thank you for your patience, and thank you to Councillor Gibson for forwarding through his amendment through to the team so they could work it through. Just so you know what's been happening at the break, I've just had to seek a little legal advice just to make sure we're not inadvertently allowing an amendment that's a direct negative or one that might end up putting us in some form of legal vulnerability before we debate. So I'll come to Mr. Cameron, if you can just talk us through what's happened in the break.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, to begin, recommendation D in your substantive motion, which is on the table, refers to section 4.8 in the report as the adoption of that process. So as that process is not part of the recommendations, to give effect to Councillor Gibson's amendment, I've redrafted a D, which is that Council notes the Chief Executive will bring a recommended permanent appointment process to a future Council meeting. And then I've amended the substantive recommendation F, which is currently on the table, to appoints the following Council member positions as Council's representative on the SRF. Those positions are the Mayor's position, and you just take the S off Councillor, the Deputy Mayor's position, and a Councillor position. So, Councillor Gibson, is that giving effect to your draft?
Yes.
Thank you for confirming that, Councillor. So just before I come back to Councillor Gibson to speak to his amendment, just a reminder around process, especially we have so many new people around the table. We are now not debating the substantive motion. We are only debating whether or not the amendment should be allowed. So the amendment is the highlighted parts that are on screen. Oh, actually, process-wise, we require a seconder before we can even debate. Do we have a seconder for these amendments? Thank you, Councillor Nixon. All right, so now that we have a mover and a seconder of the amendment, I will come to Councillor Gibson to speak to his amendment, and then we'll open it up for questions first and then debate.
Thank you, Mayor Wendy. New Zealanders voted clearly in the 2023 general election to reject the co-governance model associated with three waters. That policy was a central reason for the electoral defeat of the previous Labour government and the support shown for the Labour and its coalition parties. However, what is now unfolding at a local government level appears to be a reintroduction of co-governance in all but name. While Waters done well was supposed to be a reset, councils are now using it as a vehicle to embed co-governance arrangements that include unelected appointees with decision-making authority. In Hawke's Bay, it is proposed that 6 out of the 9...
Sorry, Councillor Gibson,
members.
a point of order has been called. I just have to pause. Councillor Montepera-Henry, if you'd like to stand and explain your point of order.
Thank you. I have a point of order. D, misrepresentation. We signed a declaration by members, and that declaration speaks to the Local Government Act 2002. Officers, may I please ask if the LGA 2002 is referred to in the Constitution?
Through your worship, it is referred to in the Constitution. It is referred to in excuse me. It is referred to in section 1.3 around if there's any conflict between the Constitution and mandatory provisions in the Companies Act, Local Government Water Services Act, or the Local Government Act, then the mandatory provisions in those acts will prevail.
Thank you. So I would have to ask democracy, please. Did every councillor around this table sign the declaration the day that they were sworn in?
Officers?
Yes, Madam Chair, at your inaugural council meeting, all members were sworn in.
Thank you.
As required.
So I'd just like to remind the councillor that he is under the LGA 2002. What we have already agreed to is a constitution that refers to the Local Government Act 2002. The declaration was signed that you will refer to and adhere that, and anything that is opposed of you on that. And I would also like to remind you that there is nothing to be scared of with embracing mana whenua in representation.
Okay, Councillor Motuhira Hendry, hang on team, I'm just going to pause. So a point of order has been called and the basis of the point of order was, sorry Councillor?
D, misrepresentation.
Misrepresentation, all right, just going to pause things for one moment.
Yes.
Consulting with Manawhānau is not a problem.
Insulting Manawhānau is a problem though.
All right, team, thank you for bearing with me. As new mayor, I needed to seek some guidance on that particular point of order. I haven't had it called before. In this situation, I'm going to allow the member to continue on the basis of debate, but I just will caution that we're making sure that we're being careful with our language in the community. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 100%. Manawhānau needs to be consulted. There's no argument that will continue. In Hawke's Bay, it is proposed that 6 out of 9 board members will not be elected by the public. This undermines the principles of democratic accountability and risks eroding public confidence in local government. It is important to note that Hastings residents have recently expressed their position on the broader issue. In 2025, voters rejected the Maori ward seats in Hastings. That outcome reflected a clear community preference for maintaining electoral equality and direct democratic accountability. The current proposal risks cutting across that expressed will of the people. Currently, our water entities are managed by 15 elected councillors. That would be like sacking 10 councillors, replacing them with 5 Manawhānau and 5 experts. That is what we're
Point of order, Your Worship.
proposing by 9
I'm
councillors.
sorry, Councillor Gibson. Yes, Councillor Teo Skipworth, point of order. On what basis, please?
Misinformation. There are not 5 mana whenua appointments in the current resolution. There is only 1.
Thank you for that clarity. I will accept that. Sorry, Councillor Gibson, you may continue.
So out of the 3 that Hastings would provide, 1 would be Manawhānau, but the proposal for the overall scheme was 9 people to be on the board.
Point of order, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Teo Skipworth.
We are discussing our proposal.
Can you please use your microphone?
Sorry, we are discussing this current resolution, not the one that's about to come.
I will accept that on the basis as well that we only have control over who we appoint, so we won't be discussing what other councils do because they haven't even met yet. Councillor Gibson.
That's fine. So I should finish with a parable. A man is resting in his tent in the desert. His camel asks, "Is it cold outside? May I put just my nose inside the tent?" The man agrees. Soon the camel asks to bring its head, its neck, and then its front legs. Bit by bit, the camel keeps pushing further in. Before long, the entire camel is inside and the man is forced out to the cold. It's a warning about small concessions leading to complete loss of control. What starts as something harmless and minor can grow into something overwhelming if not checked early. Thank you.
Okay, we have an amendment that we are debating, team, and so first of all I'm going to not ask for debate, I'm going to ask for questions, and then I will come to debates and comments. So I will come first of all to Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through Your Worship, in terms of keeping the Crown informed of the process that we were going through in terms of representation, can I ask, was the Crown consulted or had knowledge of Manawhānau being likely to be appointed to Shareholders Representative Forum or any other entity that we may have?
Team, can anyone speak to that? Thank you, Mr. Thu.
Through Your Worship, councillors, so the section I mentioned earlier around where the councils had the heads of agreement, that commitment of the heads of agreement was transferred into the Water Services Delivery Plan that the council adopted
submitted to the government and the minister signed back to us. So it had been communicated representation by councils on the SRF committee.
Deputy Mayor Fowler?
Supplementary question, and was there any Crown feedback on that?
Other than approval, no. Through you, Your Worship, as I understand it, Mr. T, you can add, no, the Crown's reaction was approval of the Water Services Delivery Plan.
Okay, so we've had Crown approval of our intended SRF process, is that what you're saying? Or the mana whenua element?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, any other questions, team? Okay, so now I will open it up just on the amendment, comments and debate. Councillor Lorcan.
Yes, through you, Chair. It's no surprise that this councillor has brought this to the table. I was expecting it because he did sign the Taxpayers Union pledge during his election campaign last year, and that was to oppose unelected appointments.
Sorry, Councillor Lorcan, a point of order has been called. On what basis?
It's got no relevance to the discussion.
I'll
ask you to withdraw that at this stage, Councillor
I'll withdraw
Lorcan.
that. Opposing unelected appointments into council committees, with regulatory powers or spending powers, that argument to me it's based purely on direct election and ignores why appointments such as Mike Paku's are made in the first place. For a start, there's a couple of points that I want to make here. It rejects experience and lived expertise. Councils and our controlled organisations, we deal with incredibly complex issues, things like urban design, environmental science, economic development, and in this case, water management. So, and often the most qualified people to lead these organisations aren't politicians. Appointing experts, engineers, respected economists, a Māori iwi representative with extensive governance and leadership expertise across commercial and not-for-profit ventures ensures that decisions are informed by expertise and not just political expediency. And a pledge to oppose this essentially means that you support decisions made by well-meaning amateurs over informed professionals. My other point is it undermines partnerships, especially with those of mana whenua. The Crown's commitment to the Treaty of Waitangi Partnership is operationalised at local government level through these appointments, and opposing this on ideological grounds damages our crucial relationships with Māori and ignores the unique perspective and rightful role of mana whenua in decisions affecting their ancestral lands and resources like our water. My other point is elections is not the only source of legitimacy. Now, legitimacy can also come from expertise, professional accreditation, and community standing. An elected council that knowingly appoints qualified experts to advise it in situations like this is acting responsibly. These appointees are also accountable. They serve at the pleasure of this elected council, which is ultimately responsible to our voters, to our residents, and our ratepayers. We, the elected representatives, remain in control. Now, Mike Paku is a member of the Institute of Directors. He's a business and governance leader with decades of experience, including sitting on multiple boards and charitable trusts, and for the Ngāti Kahanunu iwi Incorporation for 9 years, turning it into one of the most commercially successful iwi incorporations in Aotearoa. He is valuable, and I support his appointment. Now, elected popularity doesn't necessarily equate to leadership ability or business acumen, and there are people in this very room.
This is outside the scope.
This is debate.
Actually, Councillor Nixon, I will stop you, just like I let Councillor Gibson continue. This is Councillor Lorcan's opinion. She's allowed to voice it. I will say, Councillor Lorcan, you're about to run to time.
One sentence.
Yep.
So I'd say there are people in this room who at the election were very popular but couldn't lead their way out of a conga line. So...
Point of order, Your Honour, that's just insultive to the people in this table.
I was not focusing that on anyone, but I will sit down. I think I've made my point.
Thank you, Councillor Lorcan. All right, team. I would like to bring some more decorum and order to this table. Our community has elected us to act as professionals around here, so I am going to be asking for that. I don't want a point of order called every 5 minutes, team. Just like I let Councillor Gibson finish his point of view, which everyone's entitled to, as long as it's not wildly inaccurate or pointedly offensive towards an individual, I will allow it. Councillor Ratcliffe.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of points. Firstly, the relevance of the ratepayer pledge. It absolutely is relevant. Article 3 of the pledge is to oppose unelected appointments onto council committees with spending and regulatory powers. So I commend Councillor Lorcan for raising that, and the point of order was completely unfounded. Also, I would like to draw everyone's attention to, on the agenda, the discussion document, part 4.8 in the discussion, a skills-based approach, and I know 4.8 applies to the permanent appointments, and this is
Point of order.
interim appointment.
But
Councillor
it's got no
Gibson,
relevance.
Councillor Gibson, it does have relevance because
No,
you have, Councillor Gibson,
Yes.
you've just said relevance.
And we're discussing that 4.8's been taken out. The reference to
Correct,
4.8.
which is your amendment, which is the basis of what we are debating, whether or not it should be in. So I will ask you to please not interrupt again. Councillor Ratcliffe.
To clarify, I will not be supporting the amendment. The skills-based approach has been taken to these appointments. The skills matrix is expected to include capability across governance and board experience, understanding of Te Ao Māori and community perspectives, infrastructure and or water services knowledge, and financial and commercial expertise. And on those 4 points, I would say that Mike Paku is arguably better qualified than anybody in this room to be appointed to this committee. Also on 4.5.1, Mr. Paku's CV is gone into in greater depth, but for anyone in any doubt about his capacity, capability and ability to perform the functions that we are asking him to perform, there's certainly no doubt in my mind.
Thank you, Councillor Ratcliffe. I will now come to Councillor Nixon.
Thanks, Your Worship. We were told earlier today that this water services entity involves the transfer of around $2 billion worth of assets that were council's direct responsibility, but under the new proposal will not be. And I believe that we were voted to look after that money, that value, which has, after all, been paid for, or will be paid for by ratepayers. So the reason I support the amendment is I think the decision should be made by people around this table, and I would dearly like somebody else to put their hand up to offer to fill the spare vacancy, the third vacancy. That's all I need to say.
Thank you, Councillor Nixon. I will come to officers for a point of clarification for myself. The SRF, what decision-making powers does it have, team, versus what comes back to council? Because I just want clarity on that.
Through your worship, the direct decision-making powers that the SRF have, mainly in relation to the management of the board, so the appointment, the reviewing the performance of the board. They are also responsible for preparing the statement of expectations. However, the decision on the final statement of expectations goes up to council as part of the reserved matters list. As a reserved matter decision. The remainder of the reserved matter decisions are outlined in the shareholders agreement. But yes.
Thank you, team. So for clarity, so there is no confusion, the SRF does not have wide-reaching decision-making powers. In fact, they are accountable to us as elected members. We are shareholders. Any other, before I come back to Councillor Gibson, you have a, process question, Mr. Cameron. On an amendment, is there a right of reply?
Through Madam Chair, so Council's default position is there's 3 tiers of debate and associated formality and standing orders. Council's default position is level B. Under that, all members can speak to an amendment, and then above that, the chair has discretion as to how you want to apply the rules of debate as chair.
Thank you.
So my initial response to your question would be no, but then you have an overriding discretion as to how you want things to run.
Thank you. Team, I'll refer to a few weeks ago, we had chairs training in here where the vast majority of council attended, and we went through a process with experts in this field, and they did indicate that there is no right of reply on an amendment, so I will uphold that. So I will, however, come to Councillor O'Keefe.
One likes to think when they stand up in this forum, they're a voice of reason. One likes to think when they stand in this forum, they're a united force, where they disagree vehemently but continue to walk hand in hand. In the years gone by, this room has embraced a whole lot of anomalies and shortcomings. Some should never ever be repeated in public. But despite that, despite their disagreements and shortcomings and anomalies that permeate through the debate, they walk out of that door hand in hand. And that's what I'm promoting here today. We can quote points of order. I wouldn't have a clue what a point of order is. All this, we could go through every chapter and verse. But what I'm endorsing here is whether we agree with or not, this council is about serving the people. What's best for the people? Ask yourself that question. Also, if you are of an evangelical persuasion, I ask myself, if I'm ever puzzled or not sure, what would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? So I'm asking each and every individual, we're mothers, we're fathers, we're aunties, we're uncles, but when you walk through that door, it's a privilege. It's not a right. I walk through that door and I think, what am I doing here? It's a gift. It's a gift to be honored, to be nurtured, to be treasured. Have your differences, but don't forget why you're here. It's about love. That's what this council is about. Has that gone since I took my hiatus? Is it still here? That's what I see. I'm looking at you, Councillor Gibson. You make your stand. Make it. Make it. But when we're able to caress our pillow in the quiet of the night, I want us to be able to close both eyes and to turn to our loved ones and say, darling, today I served my community well. I was a unifying force. I healed, I restored, I uplifted, and I honoured our people. That's Henare O'Keefe, chapter 1, verse 5. And I'd like to add this, Your Worship. I have a physio appointment at 5 p.m.
All right, team, we've got a ticking clock put on us by Councillor O'Keefe. Councillor O'Keefe, would you mind indicating before you do fully take your seat whether or not you support or oppose the
On this occasion, I do not support the amendment for the reasons I've already explained.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Is there anyone else who hasn't already spoken that would like to speak for or against the amendment? Councillor Jessup.
Ka tūau ki te mihi ki te rangatira rei. I just want to oppose the amendment that Mr Gibbons has put up, because a lot of other people that do believe in Mr Paku's ability to represent mana whenua is tūturu. And I stand in my mana, so does our other three Takitimi ward councillors, with him on our backs, and our learned friend, Mr O'Keefe. And also a lot of the other councillors around this table, because we are here together as a team. That's what I thought anyway. And there's a surprise that's just come up that wasn't brought out in our workshops before. And I'm actually sad that it has come to this, because I got accused of being political. Yes, this is political, but I'll stand on my mana and say I oppose what you're doing, Mr Gibson, because my people deserve to be at this table. That's why we're here. Kia ora.
And I will just say that it is the right of any elected member to move an amendment. And I will say thank you, Mr. Gibson, for at least forwarding that information through to democratic support in advance. That's very helpful. So I will come now to Councillor Daniel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Tēnā no tātou. As an uri o kahungunu and classed as that next generation that's coming through to the council, I'll probably stand here today and I will not support the amendment. Mike has a connection through our kahungunu that's very vital. His skill set and his knowledge brings something so significant that would benefit us here. And one thing I do want to say is there's nothing to be afraid of having mana whenua walk alongside you to help inform your decisions. Ka pai.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll come now to Councillor Teo Skipworth. Councillor Jessup, if you'd like to turn off your microphone. Thank you.
Thank you, Worship. I too would like to move to kōrero from the same perspective that Councillor O'Keefe spoke. And I'm going to ask my fellow councillors to remove Mike as mana whenua and remove him as Māori and think about the skill sets that he does bring to this council. How many of us in this room have been able to produce a number of houses for whānau and Flaxmere that are high quality, that are warm, that are safe and that are dry? How many of us in this council table have been able to sit on a governance board and create a hauora space for not only Māori, but for all in Heretaunga, reaching up to Wairoa, down to Waipukaro, and further? How many of us around this council table has led an organisation that has been able to do that? He's on a number of boards because of his skill set. Most boards that he is on isn't because he is Māori or because he is mana whenua. That is an added advantage that I am unapologetic about, is that he does come with whakapapa, being mana whenua and Māori. The reason that is an added advantage over our two sitting councillors is he can keep us all safe under the guise of te ao Māori and in terms of kaitiakitanga. But if each and every one of you were to look at his curriculum, at his CV, it's vast and it's wide. Then you can talk about whether he should be in there because he is Māori and because he is mana whenua. So, Your Worship, I will be voting against. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Teo Skipworth. I will now take my opportunity to provide my view. I will be opposing the amendment. Lots of people have talked about lots of different reasons why. My one's pretty simple, really. It's continuity. This is an interim appointments process. For me, it makes excellent sense to have the Deputy Mayor, who has been our conduit across the trainiums. He was heavily involved in this prior to this trainium. It makes sense for myself to be involved because all mayors are showing the gravity of this and have appointed themselves. And also Mike Paku is a logical choice because he has been so heavily involved within our waters journey over many, many years. That is why I cannot support the amendment. I also cannot support the amendment because of the removal of 4.8. I believe firmly that a skills-based approach is the best way forward because it provides excellent oversight. By having the right mix of experience, knowledge and perspective around the table representing us, but also reporting back to us and accountable to us. And in this case, that includes mana whenua because water touches so much of our community. And so I would like to ensure that at least one of those representatives has mana whenua connections, and they may also be a water engineer for all we know. So I think it's preemptive to remove 4.8. It has some excellent merits, which is why I won't support the amendment. Right, on that basis, voting solely on whether or not we adopt the amendment to the substantive motion, I'm going to put that. All those in favour, please say aye. So that's 1 for. Okay, that's 2 for. All those against? Nay. Okay, so that's 2 for, the rest against. Excellent. All right, so the motion or the amendment is lost. So we're now returning to the substantive motion. Governance, democratic support, do you require a few minutes just to... Okay, we're just going to adjourn. Everyone take 10 minutes, please, team. All right, team, we are putting standing orders through their paces today, which I guess is a good test of democracy. So what I'll do, first of all, is I will come to Mr Cameron, who's going to talk us through the substantive motion which we are returning to. So the amendment has failed, which means we return to the substantive motion that's on the table.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what I'll do now, councillors, is I'll just reinforce what Her Worship said and restate your substantive motion, clarify that with the mover and the seconder so that everyone is on the same page, and then your deliberations can continue. Briefly, what happened, you had a first and seconded amendment. So what happens per your standing orders, you then go and address the amendment and debate that and see whether it stands or fails. That amendment has failed. You are now returning back to the original substantive motion as it was on the table. So what that means is we've reconstituted recommendation D as it was in, as it is in your report, and we've reconstituted recommendation F as it is in your report. But the mover and seconder of the substantive motion had adopted that highlighted tweak to what was in your report, which is appoints the following council or committee members as council's representatives on the SRF. So that is my restatement of your substantive motion on the table. And finally, I'll just confirm with the mover and seconder of the substantive motion that...
So I'll come first to Councillor Teo Skipworth. Are you happy with that? Thank you. Councillor Corbyn? Thank you. Thank you, Mr Cameron. Okay, team. So first of all, what I will do is open up for any further questions and then we'll move into comments and debate. Are there any further questions that have come up? Excellent. Okay, we'll now move into comments and debate. Councillor Nixon.
I thought somebody else would talk first. I hold Mike Parker in very high regard, actually. I've served with him on the wastewater treatment plant at various stages. So my vote is really on the principle of where the appointments come from. Do they come from around this table? We have 14 people, not including myself, highly qualified to be on that committee, as well as the mayor and deputy mayor. And I'm certainly not offering my own self as a candidate. So I will oppose it, but simply on the basis of principle, not on the basis of the individual involved, who I do hold in high regard.
Thank you, Councillor Nixon. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you. Following on, I just found the disparaging remarks about the lack of leadership from members. Comments were made about the lack of leadership from people in this council. There's 15 of us councillors currently managing and governing the water entity. I think we do a very good job as governors, and this is a vote for co-governance over democracy in my view, so I'll be opposing it.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Alternate views? Councillor Radcliffe.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be supporting the motion. I fully approve of the structure of our appointments and our selections. I think the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor and Mike Paku are all excellent choices. And so I will be supporting the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Radcliffe. Any other comments or debate? All right, well, I'll take my opportunity. For me, this one's pretty simple. This forum is an important job to do, and it should be built around the right mix of skills, not just politics. Council is not giving away its power in having these three appointees. We still choose who represents Hastings. We can change those appointments whenever we want, and we still have the say over the big decisions. The SRF doesn't make the big decisions, we do as shareholders. So the real question is not whether or not, the real question is whether or not we send more politicians or whether we send the strongest team. That's why I support the criteria under 4.8, because it will allow us in time through a robust process to build our dream team to represent Hastings in that forum. And it's why I support the interim placements, because we will not lose momentum with these people. Ultimately, it is about ensuring that we are getting best bang for the buck for the ratepayer, and that means momentum right now. We have a short runway to get on with some very big work. So I support the recommendations. All right, I will now return to the mover. Would you like a right of reply?
Yes, Your Worship, if I may.
Thank you, Councillor Teo Skipworth.
Thank you, Worship. Mana whenua and Māori in general have been very welcoming people to this country. We've manaki'd and te aki looked after all visitors that have come into this country. Now, this is from a mana whenua context, Your Worship, in case you're wondering if it relates to. And I agree with you, Councillor Gibson. Some of the comments around camels and their legs are very derogative. And when you say give an inch and people will take a mile, and that's basically you're describing what has happened to Māori when Māori have lended arms at inch lengths, at arm's length. An inch and a mile has been taken from us often. We have discussed in great depth around independence, whether they should be on here. I need to make my fellow councillors aware that our Audit and Risk Committee chair is an independent, and not one of the councillors around the table has contested that appointment. Lastly, I want to apologise to the Paku whānau for their whakapapa being dragged through this council table as though it should not be leading an entity that helps serve our people well. And directly to Mr. Mike Paku, I apologise for your name being dragged through this council today when you clearly have the skill set and the right mindset, as you have proved on many of the committees that you sit on, to uplift this community. Nō reira, tēnā tātou katoa.
Thank you, Councillor Teo Skipworth. All right, team, it is now time to put the substantive motion as outlined on screen. I'll give everyone a moment to look at that again. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? 2 against. Thank you, that's carried. All right, team, thank you for that. So we have well traversed that item and are now moving forward. So we'll now move on to item 9, which is on page 39, I believe. Ms. Stettner. Mr. Cameron, thank you.
So, through Madam Chair, Ms. Stettner sends her apologies this afternoon. This report is recommending to Council that you institute an additional Council meeting into your calendar. It's in the table there on page 40 for Thursday, the 23rd of April.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. That's right, Council. Unfortunately, our work is not done. There are many more Council meetings ahead, so there's so much on right now that we are having to put in place a few extra Council meetings, and this is another one of them. Councillor Watkins.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Watkins. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Nixon. All right, if there's no questions or debate, I'll put the recommendations as outlined on page 40. All those in favour? Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Okay, we'll now move on to item 12, which is on page 41, which is a recommendation to exclude the public from items 13, 14, 15 and 16. I'll come now to Mr. Cameron to explain why, please.
So, thank you, Madam Chair. There's 4 items on today's agenda recommended to be heard in committee. For each of the items, they traverse information, both business information of Council and external organisations that's regarded at this time as commercially sensitive. Each item also has a situation where Council may at some stage or is due to enter into a negotiation process. Given those reasons, in accordance with the local government meetings legislation, it's recommended appropriate, and the officers advise it's appropriate these matters be considered in committee at this time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Are there any questions for Mr. Cameron? No, in which case I'm happy to move from the chair. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Ratcliffe. If there's no questions, debate, I'll put the recommendations. All those in favour? Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Before we move offline and into public excluded, I'd just like to thank anyone from our community who's taken the time to watch this meeting. As you can see, it's incredibly important work that we traverse in these meetings, and it is work that we do on your behalf. So thank you for participating if you have done so. All right, we will now move into public excluded.